How many of you are familiar with the statement, "I think, therefore I am," by Descartes, the Greek philosopher? Have any of you heard that? I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have probably heard that phrase. That is a famous saying of Descartes, the philosopher from ancient Greece. I think, therefore I am. It's kind of been turned into a little bit of a meme or a joke, and a lot of people kind of miss the meaning of it. But there's a general meaning, which is I think what most people who do understand it kind of pick out from it. And then what I've realized is there's a much deeper implication of that idea. One that I think even a lot of people who study it kind of miss. And the reason why is because it's a lot more abstract, and you have to really dive deep and understand a lot of other things in context with it to really grasp what it is. And I don't even think Descartes himself was thinking of it this way when he said it. I think he was thinking specifically of just the surface level kind of connotation that it has now when he said it. But I think it was one of those things where, like, have you ever said something and then later on you realize it was a lot more significant than you actually thought it was at the time you said it? And you learn that it actually has a much deeper implication than you originally even meant it to. It's kind of one of those things where I don't think he realized just the kind of hint at something that he gave there with that statement. Because I don't even think he necessarily was intending it to be in that context. But what that is essentially is, well, for it to make sense, let me give you the general gist first. The general idea of that statement is the idea that we are our mind. In other words, everything that we know about ourselves and everything we perceive about ourselves is inside of our mind, right? Like our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our personality, everything that we identify as us, right, resides within our mind, right? And that's kind of the general gist of what he's saying. In other words, what separates us from animals or, like, you know, plants or just matter in general is the fact that we can contemplate this stuff, right? We can contemplate our feelings, we can contemplate our thoughts, we can contemplate our emotions and things like that. That's what separates us from other beings in terms of intelligence. And so that's the general gist of the statement. It's very kind of, that's kind of deep on its own, but it's not really like super mind-blowing. I think most people kind of on at least some subconscious level kind of already know that. I don't think that's anything like super major groundbreaking, but I think that is the original intent of what that statement means. But there's if you take that concept just a step further, you can actually go down a crazy rabbit hole and get a much deeper and much more meaningful, I think, idea out of that statement. Not only does our mind being capable of contemplating ourselves and who we are and identifying that as something unique, not only does that make us different, you know, from all the matter, but actually it means the mind is the key to almost everything. And that's a much deeper implication, because if you think about it, right, everything we know is information. Right? Like take our five senses, for example. You know, we have sight, right? We have hearing, we have feeling, right? We have taste and smell. We have all of our senses, right? But really, those are simply mechanisms that our brain uses to interpret the outside world, everything that's happening around us, right? We don't actually know anything around us except for what our mind interprets. In other words, let's take my couch, for example, right? That the only reason I know that's a couch is because, one, my brain already has a pre-association of what a couch should look like based on pictures that someone else has told me what a couch looks like, right? So if I had never seen a couch before my entire life, if I never heard of a couch, if I didn't even know what the word couch meant, and somebody points at this and said, "What is this?" I'd say, "I don't know. I have no idea what that is," right? Because a couch wouldn't register in my brain because my brain has no idea what a couch is or what that means. So the idea is, the only reason I know that's a couch is because my brain has been programmed to know that. based on, you know, what you learn as you're growing up. So this then applies to literally everything. Everything is information, including the words that we're saying, like I'm saying right now. Everything is simply information, right? The noises that I'm making right now as I'm talking are simply vibrations of my vocal cords. That is, moving air in certain waves going into my ears, and my brain is then interpreting as information based on things it's learned, right? It knows the language. And so the idea is everything we know on the outside world is information inside our brain. So then if we go back to what we said earlier, right? I think, therefore I am. This means that literally our brain is the only thing that allows us to have any interpretation of anything at all in the outside world. And none of this outside stuff would have any meaning to us, right? We wouldn't be able to grasp any of it or perceive any of it. It would just be noise. All of it would just be meaningless noise. And we wouldn't be able to interpret one thing from another, right? We wouldn't understand colors, we wouldn't understand tastes, smells, feelings, right? Any of that stuff. And so this is sort of the receiving aspect of our brain, right? Where we receive information, we interpret it, and we store it, and then we know that, right? But then there's another kind of role that our brain can play that is the reverse of this, which is our brain can then create and do the reverse, right? So now we can create something in our head and then it becomes real, right? Anybody who writes a book or comes up with stories or movies or characters, right, does this on a regular basis, right? They come up with something in their mind and then they put it down on a piece of paper or they speak it out, right, with their words in their mouth. And now all of a sudden that thing is now real, right? We convey that to other people and now they understand what that is, right? So our brains are not only capable of receiving this information, interpreting it and storing it, but it's also capable of putting out that information. So it's the idea that our mind is literally the key to everything that we know and understand, meaning the mind is central. So I think, therefore I am now becomes a much deeper statement of literally of almost all reality. And that was the conclusion I came to, and I just kind of made my whole brain explode when I realized that. I was like, whoa. So this implies that you can then train the mind to cause change in your life that you wouldn't ordinarily think you could do. And this is how a lot of people, you know, through things like meditation and stuff, they become more patient, right? Or they are able to overcome things in their personality. So you're able to overcome things, right, that you didn't think you could overcome, or you can end bad habits, right, through will and your mind. So these are where you get into, if you train your mind, right, the creative force inside your mind, you can quite literally alter your own perception of things and as a result manifest change in your own life. And there's all kinds of different ways and techniques you could do this, but that was literally one of the most crazy things I realized